Looks like we are live. It looks like we are on. The moment has come, just gone past 6 p.m. this evening. A very good evening to you. I'm Tami Ngubeni, delighted to be your host this evening as we celebrate Women's Month. What a privilege it is really for us as South Africans to be able to have a month where literally every single day is dedicated towards heralding the achievements of South African women, but also looking at where the gaps are in this current generation. I love the topic that we'll be discussing today as we contemplate passing the baton to the next generation. And we have dynamic panelists who are going to be sharing their own personal experiences with us, their own accomplishments, all trailblazers in the fields that they are pioneering. But before that, just a reminder, before I introduce the panelists to you, just a reminder that we are streaming live on the Mentorship Boardroom's YouTube page. And I know that you are going to have a lot of questions that you want to ask our panelists, or maybe even thoughts that you might want to share throughout tonight's boardroom panel discussion. What you can do is just go into the chat room, write your comments, write your questions. And if you want that question posed to a particular panelist, please make that clear. And I'll make sure that I ask on your behalf and they'll be able to answer those questions for you. I'm Tami Ngubeni once again, and welcome to tonight's session as we celebrate the dynamic women of South Africa, and we focus on generational wealth, generational impartation, generational, what can one call it? I would have almost went to generational curses in some areas, but let's talk about what it is that we're passing on to the next generation and what the previous generation before us is going to be passing on to us. Let's set the scene as we officially open this evening with Ntombi ya Mutsonga. She is young, she is dynamic, she is full of energy, she is a poet, and she is yours this evening. Ntombi ya Mutsonga, over to you.
But where do I begin? Do I begin with those who lost their lives so that others may live a better life? The Lillian Goyas, the Victoria Mshenges, the Helen Joseph? Or do I begin with those who fought with all that they had, not only for themselves, but the nation at large, the likes of Sophia de Bruyn? Or do I begin with those who left their husband to Robben Island and children to exile, but never gave up the fight? The Masi Sulus, the Winnie Mandela, where do I begin to tell a story of 20,000 women who marched with dignity, determination, and courage? 20,000 women who stood and presented themselves boldly, refusing to give in to oppression. 20,000 women who raised their collective voices all at once and chanted, "Enough is enough." 20,000 women who marched to the Union Building on the 9th of August, 1956, looking to put one thing to an end, life in oppression. Oh, how bold, brave, resilient, courageous they were. See, I am talking about women of courage and character, passion and compassion, determination and dedication. Now it's our time to inspire the next 20,000 women from all walks of life. It is our time to hold the door ajar and reach out a helping hand to the next 20,000 women. It is our time to give knowledge, insight, wisdom, guidance that will enable the next 20,000 women from all walks of life to realize their goals and aspirations. Because together we can. Yes, together we can. Hala!
Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful rendition. What boldness, what passion, what energy. Thank you so much for sharing that and for shining the spotlight on those who have come before us, including Mom Sophie de Brain, who is one of our guests this evening, and also shining the spotlight on what this generation's mission is, passing the baton onto the next 20,000 women. And this is something that the founder of the Mentorship Boardroom, Yolanda Tuba, has dedicated herself to. It's a bold move, Yolanda, I must say. It's a bold move, but one that I see is rooted in history. And in the same way that the woman of 1956 managed to make a change that sparked through generations, I pray that this 20,000 women and impacting 20,000 women through the Mentorship Boardroom will do exactly that for the generations to come. Let me introduce now our roundtable panelists for this evening. Amazing women of stature. We welcome Mom Sophie de Brain, a stalwart really of the movement, and one can say a monument in our country, one of the leaders of the 1956 march to the Union buildings. Mam Phumzile Mlambo Ncuga, a pleasure, Mama, to have you with us, and thank you for joining us from Emazweni. That's right. I guess that is the positive things that come out of being able to use platforms such as this. No, she's not here with us. Emzansi besithi mhlambe uzobuya, kodwa cha, not quite yet. Mission still in progress. She is the executive director of UN Women, and as you know, made history by being the first woman president, or deputy president rather, in the country. And note, I didn't say first Black woman deputy president. She is the first woman president, deputy president in South Africa. Mam Phumzile, the way ngithi president ngakhona angazi man. Ngathi kuyasheleya. Mhlambe khona into engiyizwayo. Angazi Mam Phumzile, kodwa sizobona khona, sizobona phambili iseyinde le ndlela. Thank you very much, Mama, for joining us. She is executive director for UN Women, and also just an amazing stalwart. She is vivacious, she is super intelligent, she is a change maker and a rule breaker. That is what she is. And wherever she walks, she leaves her fragrance with her. And she also leaves all of these mathematical equations that most of us cannot discern or decipher. But so brilliant is her mind that she happens to make it make sense to so many others. She is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Town. Mamokgethi Phakeng, so good to have you with us this evening. And this woman really also needs no introduction. She's young, but she's done a lot in her lifetime. She's achieved so much. She's an activist. She's a member of parliament and one of the student leaders during the Fees Must Fall movement at Wits University. She's Nompendulo Mkajwa. And she was just saying earlier on today that she's had a busy day. She's up and about at radio stations, talking to the nation, talking to the youth. I must say, Nompendulo, we were talking earlier on, it must have been that Destiny cover, right? That just catapulted it all. But more about that a little bit later on. And our other guest and founder, really, and host for this evening, Ms. Yolanda Tuba, she also is a woman that just needs no introduction. She is a corporate trailblazer. And when I say this, I kid you not. She has literally been able to hold formidable positions in the fintech industry, not only in South Africa, but across the continent, and making a mark wherever she goes. She is the founder of the Mentorship Boardroom. Yolanda Tuba, thank you so much, first of all, for putting this together. Thank you for your vision. May God bless you. Agwande, Sisi, Agwande. So there you have it, your esteemed panelists for this evening as we focus on passing on the baton from 1956. I'll start though with Umam Sophie de Bruyn. Mama, it's an honor and a privilege to have you here with us. A lot of us, when we think about 1956, we can only imagine, because some of us were not even there. Some of us were not even thoughts in our mothers' minds. But you were there on the ground as one of the leaders of the 20,000 women who marched to the union buildings, wanting transformation, fighting for transformation, insisting on that change. If you could take us down memory lane and tell us what it was like. What was the atmosphere like on the 9th of August, 1956, Mama de Bruyn?
Good afternoon, Tami, and good afternoon to all the panelists. Your question of how was the atmosphere and what was it like on that day, I'm sure you can imagine the sheer efforts of 20,000 women getting together despite the regime trying to prevent them from coming to the union building. And also if you, today we have all these gadgets. We didn't have phones during that time. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all the luxury of communicating like you do today. So despite all of that, the organizers mustered 20,000 women to the union buildings. But we also know that it was more than 20,000 women that did come, but they were prevented because some of them who didn't know their way to Pretoria, coming from distant places, asked directions from police on the streets of Pretoria. And the police said, oh, you want to go to union buildings? Come, I'll show you how to get there. And they took them by the arm and pushed them into the police vans. And they only kept them until evening when the march was over. So we know that there were more than 20,000 women that should have been there. But this efforts of the regime stopped some of the women from coming there. Now this mighty force of women on that day, marching up to the amphitheater, into the buildings, into the grounds of the union buildings, was something like, women were happy, they were not afraid, they were very brave, and marching up the steps in a very dignified, disciplined manner, marching step by step, all in a line behind the four women. And many times I've been asked, what was it? Weren't you afraid? And I would say to people, or the journalists that asked me these questions, I would say, you didn't have time to be afraid. We never thought about fear. It was only afterwards that we thought about it, but also there was safety in numbers. Because we were so many, we felt protected by one another. And yes, the day was sort of like a carnival serious matter. The women, when they arrived at the inside the grounds, they set themselves down on the grass and laid their babies, those who came with their small children, they laid them on the grass. And there was an atmosphere of seriousness, because never before did the regime see so many faces, black faces, in that holy ground, so to speak. And then you would also see what we noticed was the clerks that worked in the union buildings. It was like a wonderlijke for them to see these many women descending on the union buildings. They were on the windowsills, they were on the roof, they were everywhere to look at this great army of women. But coming together to a place where the Prime Minister, was not available, although we had informed him that the women were coming. And he conveniently made himself absent on that day. So he was not there, and the women said that he ran away for them, he was afraid of them. But this gives testimony of the women's ability to master and to organize and to mobilize such a huge number of women without all the necessary devices to bring them there. And women came there on their own steam, meaning that there were no organizations or, that gave them funding. We didn't even know about funding. They funded themselves.
And so insightful. Thank you, Mum Sophie. And I'd like to pose the next question to you, Mum Phumzile. Mum Sophie talks about the lack of organizations that existed at the time, that there was safety in numbers, and that's why they gathered together. Talk to us about the role and the importance of being organized as a structures. And I'm talking now in reference to structures such as the UN Women, for example. How do structures like that assist in being voices for women and moving forward the causes of women?
Thank you very much, Tammy, and good evening to everybody at home and fellow panelists, women I respect and admire. Thank you for including me, Yolanda. Indeed, being organized is important. I remember back in the day, the times of UDF, we used to say organize or starve. And the starve meant starving as in being hungry, starving as being unable to act, starving as in being unable to be influential. Organization gives you the means to get your point, to get to the point that you want to get to, but also safety, as Sophie is saying. If you are part of a collective, that gives you some safety because you're doing something with people. What is special about the women that marched in 1956 for us and for them is that their organization demonstrated to women that they can do this, that it is possible to come from different places with a shared ideal and accomplish something which is as significant as what they achieved. They did not have, as she was saying, the resources that we have, the internet, mobile phones, etc. But because someone took the time to actually organize them, everything just came together. Because we cannot hope that the things we wish and long for in our society will just happen, because hope is not a plan. Hope is not a strategy. You actually have to put things together and stabilize the moving parts and then move in one direction or in different direction. But as long as there is a thought process about where we are going. So I cannot emphasize. And I always say, if you're a young person at university, at high school, even at primary, and you are not a member of anything, you are in trouble. Go join something now. Join the Bible study, join Girl Guides, join whatever, but be a part of something. There's a lot to learn in that.
And Mam Phumzile, you talk about something that I wanted to touch on here, about labeling. Is it important to label yourself an activist? You mentioned about your early days at the UDM. You were the first president of the Natal Organization of Women, which is now. Is it important to call yourself an activist, or can you just have a cause and back that cause without necessarily labeling yourself that?
Well, I don't think that the label is important. What you do is important. I think there's a big debate right now about who is a feminist and who isn't. That's not important, in my view. What is important is to be there and do the work. If people are going to label you, that's fine, but let people do it. But you cannot be obsessing about the label you are carrying, because that could even distract you, because being labeled could also suggest that you have to confine yourself to the rules that are associated with that label, even when it doesn't suit what you need to do at that time. So give yourself the permission to do what needs to be done, and do it as well as you can, even if what you're doing doesn't have a name. Just do it.
Just do it. I see you nodding there furiously, Nompendulo. And I have a sense that you perhaps can resonate quite deeply with this. As a student leader and one of the leaders of the Fees Must Fall movement at Wits University, how did that uprising, if one can call it that, happen? How did it move from a complaint and being disgruntled and being fearful about not being able to, pay the fees and about the increases, to a groundswell movement that it eventually became? How did that happen? And then also just touching on what Mam Phumzile was saying, the issue of labels. How did you, within that Fees Must Fall movement, be able to, I guess, maintain anonymity or independence as part of a collective, when the collective was no longer really part of what you yourself were believing in and the direction that you yourself felt that you wanted to go?
Good evening to everyone who's joined on the platform and watching in various digital platforms. Thank you so much, Sis Tammy, for the question. Very, very profound questions that perhaps need greater reflection in the hour and a half that we have. And I think perhaps Mam Sophie and even Mam Phumzile, even Dr. Bageng, they can definitely agree on the fact that throughout our journeys of activism, we're constantly in reflection and introspection on whether or not to make sense of the actions that we've taken prior. But I think, to your first question of this, so we wake up and ultimately it's all about fighting the fee increment, and the next day we are charging head on for the call for free education. And I just want to take it back to this. It can never be about individuals, but a collective. So when Mam Sophie de Bruyn was speaking, often we try to reduce movements to individuals, so to the leaders of that time, but the collective really helped the leadership of that time to pursue the vision and the mission that they have at that particular point in time. So it's the collective, it's the entire SRC executive and all the other portfolios that were there. It's the student body. The SRC is made up of 20 people. So if your students are unable to relate to whatever it is that you're trying to lead them on as an SRC, then who really is the movement? Who really is driving, this particular movement? So the collective is absolutely important when it comes to trying to achieve a greater goal, a greater mission. And I think, when I reflect on that period, and I can only reflect on the Wits Fees Must Fall protests. I can't speak on behalf of other institutions. We all came from different, institutions of which we identified within the university. So some came from the South African Students' Congress, some came from the Economic Freedom Fighters Students' Congress, some came from the Democratic Alliance Student Organization, others from churches and faith-based organizations. We had the Muslim Student Association. So we all identified in different ways, but ultimately at the end of the day, we had this one common goal to ensure we could increase access to education for young people within our institution and the country at large. And I think as I said, this needs a much broader conversation between when you agree with what the collective is saying and that fine balance of what your organization's principles are, or your principles and values as an individual are, and the greater movement or body that may be. But this is where we see that it's very important for democracy to thrive, for democratic centralism to take place. We must allow for conducive environments of dialogue, of engaging one another, of sharpening each other's minds and thoughts. And the moment we do away with safe spaces where we can say, well, we think we should go about doing XYZ in this manner. Oh no, how about we do it in this manner? Then we really make it difficult for people to thrive in that space and want to exist in that space, because they feel like their voice is not heard and therefore they disengage. So it's very important that if we want movements and we want organizations to thrive and be as inclusive as possible, that we try and create an environment where people can honestly say what they want to say, so that they don't feel like their personal values and principles are in conflict with what we're trying to achieve.
That's really profound. I like that statement, when your personal values must be aligned to what the greater cause is, because that's where dysfunction actually starts happening, when your personal values are in conflict with the values of the mission or the values of the collective. So it's really important to be sane human beings that are able to positively contribute to societies and to causes, that alignment must be there. Because the truth is, you don't want to die for the sake of a cause internally, before the cause is even achieved. You've got to bring your best self to the game and your best self to the table. Osma Mokheti, Unompendulo spoke about the importance of conducive environments and the importance of safe spaces. What would you say is the cause for this generation? The cause for the 1956 women, freedom, wanting to abolish the past laws at that particular time, dignity, self-determination, freedom of movement. For the Fees Must Fall generation, quite clear, education being paramount for them. What would you say, Osma Mokheti, is the cause for this generation?
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you to Yolanda and the Mentorship Boardroom for inviting me, for including me. It's such a wonderful honor and such a learning experience for me. Just, Yolanda, we haven't talked about this, but just mentoring the young people that I've selected, I feel like I'm benefiting more than they are. And I hope some of them are in the room today. Tammy, the cause, you say, what's the cause? And I think that we should ask the cause for the women, for the young people, for whatever. I think there's a multiplicity of causes. And I think the cause doesn't stay the same. I think things have changed. Sometimes I get a feeling that people think we're still fighting, we still have the same cause, that the same cause we have to fight it in the same way that it was fought many years ago. Here's the thing for me, and I'll just mention the cause, what I think is the cause and what drives me these days, and we can talk about it more. I think the cause for women, and I want to say women, and dare I say Black women, because I think it's important, because the 1956 march was about women. I want to focus on women and say, for me, what bothers me today is what I wrote about recently in the book edited by Sunyati, the walking the tightrope. And I think it bothers me because it's actually something that nobody wants to talk about. What it means to be a Black woman appointed to a position of leadership today is that you walk the tightrope. You are the hope. You are the solution. But at once, you are the problem and you are the person to shoot. Because you're walking the tightrope between the picket line and the boardroom. And Nombendulo can remember, while she was president of the SRC, the arguments that I had with her whilst I was president of Convocation. You are walking the tightrope. You want to build the institution to sustainable success. You're not about populism. You're not about destroying, and with the idea that only when you have destroyed, you can rebuild. And I want to say boldly tonight that if you think you're going to destroy and rebuild, you're lying to yourself. It's not that easy. We've got to transform what we have. Now, when you, this woman walking this tightrope, the boardroom, you're the hope, you're the solution, you're the everything, because the picket line sees you as themselves. The picket line sees you as the hope because you're going to answer all their questions, all their problems you're going to solve, not today, not tomorrow, yesterday, last year, yes. That's what the picket line sees you as. Why? Because you look like the picket line. You have been on the picket line. You feel the picket line. You know the picket line, and you know what they're fighting for is right. But at the same time, the boardroom sees themselves in you. Why? Because you've got the credentials of the boardroom. You've got the qualification, the experience. If you're in my business, you've got the rating, the top rating as a scientist. The world wants to hear from you. So the boardroom looks at you and they say, that's one of us. We are so glad. We know that she's going to stand for the academic program because she understands what the project is about. And yes, of course, you want to do that. You are all for that. So you are this creature that embodies both the picket line and the boardroom. But here's the thing. Sometimes both of them don't trust you. When you are in the boardroom, the picket line says, wow, she's comfortable. There's air conditioner and snacks. She's having it easy. She's forgotten about the cause. Why? Because remember, they wanted their problem solved last week, last year, 20 years ago. You are coming now. So they think you get into the boardroom and you beat everyone up and you solve them yesterday. But actually, there's policies, the processes, there's whatever you've got. And you don't have the critical mass. Okay, so the picket line gets impatient with you. All right, they don't trust you. They think you're enjoying because you're in the boardroom. And then, of course, because you can work across multiple constituencies. You go to the picket line. You're engaging with the picket line. The boardroom looks at you and they go like, "Wow, look at her. She's there now." Or perhaps the picket line is picketing. You are in the boardroom with the boardroom, they go, your people, stop them. Tell them to bloody stop. We want to get on with the program. We are losing time. And you try to say to the boardroom, excuse me, they're not just going to stop. You got to understand what's going on here. And they go, do you understand how you became the rated scientist that you are? Well, they're not going to be the rated scientists. They better get on with the program. And you constantly have got to manage this. You are a minority in the boardroom. And my view is that's the cause for women today. And I want to make it the cause of all women, because I want to believe that white women have to realize that if they don't get on with us, like in 1956, all women came together. In fact, there will be no peace in the boardroom. We need all of us to come together. Not because the people who are walking the tightrope, it's all women. It's mainly Black African women who are walking the tightrope. But all women have to come on board. You see, in 1956, the reason all women came together, it was because Black women were now being asked to carry the past. Black women. It wasn't a problem for white women, but white women went onto the picket line and joined forces with Black women. We need all women to come in and say, we see the tightrope and having to walk the tightrope and be safe. When actually, by the way, Tammy, once you walk the tightrope, someone is shooting you. You got to fall. You've got to fall. They're calling you names because you make decisions. You get things done. You make things that you make people angry, right? So the tightrope is shaking. You got to keep holding, right? Now I'm saying, women, that's the cause today. And we've got to come on and do it. If we don't do it, the boardroom is not going to change, and patriarchy will keep winning, and the world will lose. Let me stop at this. The world will lose because the reason why the world is in the state where it is right now is because we haven't drawn on the diversity of people in this world, which is mainly women. So if we don't deal with this as the cause, walking the tightrope as the cause for everyone, everyone's going to lose. Look at where the world is right now. We haven't drawn on the capacity that we have to make this a better world to live in. And so it's about time we do that. And to do that, we've got to help the people who are on the tightrope. We've got to understand the complexity of the tightrope.
It certainly is a challenge, being on both sides with the minority, but actually for the majority. Yolanda, I'm sure this is something that you can relate to, in the corporate space. You were literally one of the youngest women, CEOs in a JSE, a listed company. Yes, you sit on many boards as a businesswoman, but what is the state of representation of women and Black women in positions of leadership in the corporate space? And is there a deliberate effort to mentor women and to groom women for those positions? And lest I say, even give them the opportunities that if they were given the opportunities and they had the opportunities, they would organically rise to the top because they will prove themselves and they will prove their mettle. Is there such a concerted effort, or is the proverbial glass ceiling still a problem?
Thanks, Tammy, and thanks for everyone for being part of this. I guess the first thing is to say, what is the state of representation of Black women and women in general? The answer is it's atrocious, right? We are 50% right about of the population of the world, and we're still talking about less than 20% representation of CEOs and chairmen on the JSE. That is crazy in 2021. Whichever way you look at it, you look at the data, you slice it any way you want, it really is insane that we're actually sitting where we're sitting in 2021. So is there the proverbial kind of glass ceiling for women? The truth is, there is a concerted effort to try and get women into positions. But is the concerted effort enough? No, it's not. No, it's not. Nowhere near enough. Because in reality, we have been going to the same schools as the guys, right? We went to the same universities. We passed the same courses. We go through the same graduate programs. So what then is this bottleneck that is there? The bottleneck is people refusing to give opportunities to people that are not like them. People refusing to actually acknowledge that the helper at home and the colleague that I have in the office are two different people. And for me, that's important to actually be able to distinguish what is a colleague and what is a helper and what is another context, what is a social friend and so on. Because I have a lot of friends, right, across all races. And when you talk about race, for example, in general, they say, no, but I've got Black friends. Like guys will say, but I've got female friends.
Of course, you've got female friends, but when it comes to the economic ability of women to be able to be at the center of decision making, somehow that dissipates. And that's what we need to address. We need to address with men and with women, by the way, what are these bottlenecks? And having said that, let me say this. Beijing happened a long time ago. The Beijing conference was supposed to be the turning point where we are actually going to have true representation. And today it makes me sad to say it is only governments and politicians that have made the biggest strides in making sure that representation of women is close to 50% or thereabout. Whether it is in South Africa or Rwanda or other countries like Ghana and so on, the representation of women is actually coming really close to 50%. Whereas everywhere else in business, nada, 20%, 28%, when we're being really, really generous. And then, I mean, there are companies that actually do make a commitment. Because I'm not going to paint everyone with the same brush. There are companies that make the commitment to include women. And here I'm going to pick on my own organization. 2 years ago, on the Exco of MTN, there was only one Black woman. There was only one woman. Let's start there. Forget the races. One woman on Exco. 2 years later, less than 2 years later, there are 4. All in key positions, right? All of them in key positions. That is commitment. That is actually walking the talk. And I would like to see more and more companies actually demonstrate the kind of commitment that I've seen from the board of MTN. And by the way, the CEOs that have come, Ralph Mopita now and Rob, who came before him, to say, we actually have to do this. We don't actually, we have to only play lip service to this issue.
What's really profound is the fact that all of you as women on the panel exemplify what I think a lot of women would like to be and where they would like to be in their chosen careers. If anybody thought it was impossible, well, look who's standing in front of you, look at where they are and the influence that they have and the changes that they are making within those particular sectors. And I guess what's important here is not just about gender representation. Gender representation, yes, is the goal, but we also need to have women who are in those positions, who understand what their mandate is, that the mandate is not just to be there to camp, but really it's a mandate to be there to bring others with you. It's a mandate to transform. It's not a time to rest and say, yes, I've arrived. You have arrived so that others may follow and that you can go ubalande asambeni sonke. So Yolanda, we look forward to those boardrooms being filled with strong, capable change makers, and also Mamoketi, looking forward to the academic space also being transformed and filled with women who are going to be change makers. I'm going to pose the next question to you, Mam Sophie. Mam Sophie. Okay, do you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to add on. I mean, what Yolanda is saying about the numbers. I mean, and connecting it with what you're saying. I mean, the numbers are important. We can't do anything without the numbers. So we've got first have to get the women, and then we've got to say when they are there, then what? Mm-hmm. There is no point in getting the women in the boardroom and then either not supporting them, setting up for failure, and making sure that you prove the point. Okay. Secondly, is that we are not just women. We are many other things. You know, we are many other things, and that intersectionality also means that when we get women, we mix all of that. It's that diversity that comes into the boardroom and strengthens us as the leadership team. And I often think that gets forgotten, right? So if you don't get the women, not only do you lose the gender, you lose the other things that they bring. So it would be, I mean, the 4 women that Yolanda talks about, I'm sure there's some things changed. I mean, I've had people who say my leadership team changed. 3 women came in and gosh, it's like a different company. It's so amazing. I feel now I want to stay. And then I say, let's unpack it. Is it only because they are women? And you find that, yes, of course, the women thing is the thing, but it's also what they believe. how they do their things, so there's a whole lot of things that they bring into the space that's important. And then of course is the fact that the company is open, the board is supportive. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you get in, the board is being cajoled to appoint the women, and because the women ticks all the boxes, professionally experienced, whatever, they've got no choice, they're in the corner. You find that actually there was no going anywhere. They had to appoint you because there's no one better than you, right? Now you get there, the CEO start fighting with the board, starts setting you up. In fact, you're not going to make it. We've had so many stories of women in that position. And then when that woman fails, and then it's a fulfilling purpose, they're like, oh, okay, you see, now you say we appoint women. Look, what's happening? Because they've been forced. So there's something here that we've got to be aware of. What makes the women succeed? What makes it an environment that works? The boards need to know the importance of supporting, and the chair of the board needs to know that it's important actually to have this woman, and how do I make sure that they succeed? Because there's no point in bringing them if you're just gonna leave them there to fail or ensure that they fail. And I think that's something that we need to. So and I see the comments, is bringing women in is important. We've got to do it, and then we continue with the agenda.
I love that point. It talks to mindfulness of the individual, and it talks to, I guess, responsibility, and a greater responsibility beyond yourself. Let me come to you, Mom Sophie. The women of this generation who are fighting different battles and are impacting societies in different ways have spoken about the challenges that women are experiencing, as well as possible solutions in some instances. But from your perspective, and as a woman who represents, that generation of the 1956 generation, what would you say are your expectations of the next generation of women? What would you like to see them do that in many ways would honor the strides and the platform that your generation has already laid for them?
The expectations of the women is what I already see. I already see them doing great things in their own little corners. And we are very proud of them. It is like they are following in the footsteps. And they are also understanding that the foundation was laid for them years ago. This month is 65 years of the march. So I am very pleased, and I know wherever our women, our heroines, our icons are, they are pleased with the rate that the women are doing great things, and they are not waiting for anybody to tell them. They know what they want. They know that their mothers and their grandmothers didn't sit still. And they have the women of today also have the bravery in them. They have the abilities. But what is more important is that the women of today, the young women and the middle generation of women, they have the education which the women of 1956 didn't have. The women of today are very well educated. They have foresight, they have all the ability, they are assertive, they are articulate, and they know what they want. And they are doing the organizing, as you know. They have formed themselves into different organizations, and they are fighting all these scourges that women are suffering from. The scourge of gender-based violence, patriarchy, is a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And you have seen how women of today took to the streets, marched to the union buildings, also in their thousands, to petition the leadership in union buildings. And it was like they forced them to open up the space. But it's been accepted, and what is a good thing is that our leadership today in government, our president, didn't run away for the women like Stridham did during the 56th March.
I want to pick up on that, Mom Sophie, when you speak about the strides that women have made, you are acknowledging them, and you're highlighting how women today are impactful, how they're educated, they're resourceful, are organizing themselves. But is it enough, would you say? Is this enough to take us to the next phase and to the threshold?
But still, it's not enough, and it's going at a ship's slow pace. And the women are impatient, and rightly so, because this is a scourge of inequality of long ago. And how long are we in government now? We are now in government for about 27 years. And although women are in power also, it's still going at a slow pace. Women have positions in government where their voices can be heard to make a change. But still, it's still going at a slow pace. And we need more women in positions of power. And I think it is when women are in a position of power everywhere that these scourges will be addressed quicker or faster. And you know, women have more enemies. We had, the women of the 50s had one enemy, and that was the enemy of oppression and of apartheid. But today there are many enemies that women have. The enemy of gender-based violence, enemy of poverty. So many scourges that they have to fight. But again, I feel comforted in the knowledge that they have the ability to overcome.
Mom Sophie, thank you very much for that. And I'd like to pose the next question to you, Mom Phumzile. Mom Sophie talks about women in positions of power and leadership. And earlier on, Yolanda spoke to the Beijing conference and how that managed to really influence governments specifically in having, you know, equality and gender equality and representation. You were the first woman deputy president in South Africa, and were the highest ranking woman at that time. What would a woman presidency do for South Africa, if anything? What would be the benefits of having a woman president? And are we ready?
Well, I would say people of South Africa are ready. And if they are not ready, we'll make them ready.
Come on.
Well, you know, I mean, we have a lot of challenges in our country. I think that a woman has a particular understanding of the challenging that we face. A Black woman, as Mamuketi is saying, who goes through a particular life, also has a deep understanding of how our people are hurting all over the country. I would hope that a woman president that would come would bring that insight into the position and the determination to solve the problems that women, but everyone in South Africa faces. I also must make sure that whoever comes in that position has to pick up a team that believes in making things happen. Because obviously a president cannot and will not work alone. You depend on your team, but you have to lead yourself, lead the team. So yes, I would say that people of South Africa are ready. And let me also say about Beijing, it's 26 years now since we adopted the Beijing Platform for Action. And it was in Beijing where we said women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. That was the point of departure. And many countries in the world at that time did not even have policies that support women. There were many countries where women's rights were not protected in law. What Beijing gave us was a blueprint that is global, that gives us a platform that every country in the world has to play on, and we can evaluate, cross-pollinate, put peer pressure on each other, and move forward together. But what has happened in the 26 years is that change has been painfully slow. And the countries that did take Beijing seriously, they took bold steps. And you can see they differentiate themselves. We've also seen progress in those countries where governments focused on specific things. What governments took on, by and large, from the Beijing Platform for Action? Education. Even though our education in most parts of the world is still not where it's supposed to be, but there's been an effort that was made. Women's health was taken seriously. They began to see the decrease in death of women and children, especially women giving birth. They took serious the need for institutions that catapult women in the right direction. For the first time, we saw women's ministries. Not all of them worked the right way, but there was an effort, women's commissions, etc. So where they have made an effort, you have seen progress. This fact that globally, on average, women are represented at 25% and below is a big problem, because only 50% is parity. If it is not 50%, it doesn't move. What Mamkheti is talking about, when you walk on a tightrope and you are not even in a critical mass, there is not even somebody to hold you when you are sleeping. So we need to continue to fight for the critical mass, and we need to make sure that we're moving now to the next stage. Let me just end by saying, just a few weeks ago in UN Women, we launched Generation Equality, recognizing all these things, that it can be, we have to be intergenerational, which means you bring all the generations, the one who is at the end who's 100 and the one who's 1 year old. We are all in the same generation, but the young ones in the middle are the most critical movers and shakers. Let's co-create with them, give them the space to give us the leadership that we need. Then we also need to invest in the women's agenda. We need to bring money and resources to make sure that the agenda runs, and we need to accelerate the pace of change. But we went out, for the last 3 years, Nokian government, and finally, 3 weeks ago, when we were totaling up what we've been able to bring together, it was $40 billion worth of change and money that is going to the women's agenda. And please watch that, so that we make sure they do not cut the pace. As I leave UN Women, I feel I am leaving them with a big job to take this thing forward, at least together. And we've brought in men, we've brought in philanthropies, we've brought in private sector, traditional leaders, all in one bus to say, let's move forward. And I hope we will have the same move within South Africa as well.
Mamfuzile, that's absolutely amazing, and congratulations on that feat. Ngempela you ubasiaka mokotlo wa tšhelete. You know, they are able now to use that and build on something, because the resources are important. But you touched on something that wants me to come to you, Nompendulo. Mamfuzile speaks about intergenerational mentorship and making sure that environments have all the relevant stakeholders across the generations from 1 year to 100 years. As a young person who's now a member of parliament, yourself and a couple of other Fees Must Fall activists are now in parliament, and you are there with quote unquote your elders who are twice and more your age. What have you observed from that? And is there a space for your voice?
Thank you, Sis Tammy. Well, you know, so I think we would commit a grave error if we were to want to just or get rid of all the old guard, because I really think we ought to appreciate what we call, you know, a well of wisdom and understanding the organization where it comes. When I say organization, I mean an institution. It could be a company, it could be government, it could be a department, or whatever it may be. But institutional memory is absolutely important, right? So if I actually get to a point where perhaps the question we really need to be asking ourselves is it about age? Or is it about the will? Is it about conviction? And is it about ability? You may have young people who are completely detrimental to the progress that we want to see as a country. You may have old people who are extremely progressive in assisting us to achieve. So what we actually need is a collective of individuals across various generations who are absolutely committed to the type of development and progress that we want to see, regardless of their age. But I mean, to talk about maybe ensuring that we have a more intersectional parliament or a more intersectional company, or whatever it may be, we need to make sure that from the point of where we choose our candidates, we're more intentional. So it doesn't help that one organization or one party will be intentional about whether or not they have enough women representation, or whether or not, in the case of the majority party of the Republic of South Africa, it will be 50-50. It doesn't help for one organization to be intentional about the inclusion of young people. So saying that 40% of the candidates that they will be sending through into parliament must be young people. Because ultimately, when we then enter parliament and then we're sitting in our portfolio committees or select committees or whatever it may be, the numbers don't reflect what we all want to achieve. Because what you'll then have is that X party has brought 50 people, but if the Y party's brought 50 women, but Y party's only brought one, plus it's clearly in the portfolio committee, and you need, because, you know, when you're speaking about issues around gender representation, it's not a party matter. I would like to believe that across political parties, as women, as young women, there's a point where all our views somehow converge and we can all agree on a common goal. So it's very important for us to ensure that even when we send through our candidate lists for provincial legislature, national legislature, now we're going into local government elections, let us be intentional about how we make sure that young women are part and parcel of the candidates that we're putting forth to represent us in the various cities of which we find ourselves in. Let us be intentional and ensure that young women are on those lists, so that young people can feel that their voice too, young women can feel that their voice too is heard. So also, I mean, I don't see, so maybe to go back to the initial question, there are all people who are truly motive forces. They are motive forces to what we're trying to achieve. They can give you guidance and institutional knowledge to say, no, on this matter, on this policy or on this target in terms of representation, when we entered Parliament in 1994, this is where we're at. And
so
now,
how then do you communicate that need for wisdom to a generation of 20-somethings who, by and large, feel that isikhathi sethu manje esenu sesiphelile, ngicela ukuthi nidede nisinike ithuba. How do you communicate the need for that institutional wisdom? And
you know what? I mean, that's a very tricky question, because I don't think I would have sounded like this before I entered the system. And this is where perhaps Dr. Pakeng is correct when they say, you don't resonate with what we're saying on the picket lines anymore. But I mean, it is what it is, because we can't start off from a blank slate every time, right? So we can't enter and then be wanting to find our feet as if there wasn't a Mam Sophie de Brain, as if there wasn't a Mam Pumzilem Nambonoko, as if there wasn't a Mam Tandi Mudisa who came before you and fertilized the ground for you. So what we're saying in passing on the baton, you're not throwing the baton to us and saying, hey, catch it and see what you do with it. No, you're saying you must take us through the journey. Right? You can't, otherwise we're not going to succeed. And that's what that's also the fault in what we're doing in terms as Black people, as women, I guess, is that people always have to start afresh every time they enter spaces if there's no one before them that came to fertilize the ground for them, so that we can actually have sustainable change. So that also speaks to a succession plan. So when we're calling for a greater inclusion of young women, it's part and parcel of a succession plan. The old guard, the matured women and men, I don't know why we're only speaking about women being the old guard, and the men too. And perhaps maybe sometimes they are the more regressive ones at times. But I mean, we do acknowledge the fact that there are men who are motive forces, and but the men too are part and parcel of the old guard, because what we don't want is to discontinue whatever progress has been made and have to then always have to start, almost this restart button. But we also fail in the sense that if we want space as young people, and the reason why maybe the old guard don't want to let go of their privilege and don't want to let go of these positions is because when we want to enter, we want to discard them. Whereas maybe we could be putting them in spaces where they can play an advisory role. And we are at no point saying people who do not have the capacity. You may be in a space for a long time, but when we look at what you've contributed to the space, we can't see it. So we're not saying we must keep people who have been in the space because they've been in the space for a long time. No, but if someone truly has the capacity to assist us in achieving our goals, then let us bring them closer to play an advisory role. Because what makes people want to stay in a position and not want to let go of their power, not want to let go of their privilege, is us not having a succession plan. We want to discard them. So there's no plan for them. But if we say to them, look, well, the plan for you now could be that, can you come sit in this advisory, or can you? So their sense of purpose is not shattered at that point in time. But we must.
And I must say, Nompendulo, what you're talking about, ngempela isintu, because even as a people, we honor our elders because of the wisdom that they bring to situations. And in ngempela, we are who we are because of where we come from and those who have come before us. Which brings me, Yolanda, to my next question as to the theme for today is really passing on the baton from 1956. We have received that baton. When is the right time for us to start imparting that wisdom? When do you know that it's time now to, when do you know that it's time to say, okay, you follow me. I'll show you the ropes. I'm going to teach you everything I know. And by the time you're going to be even better than me, so that you can then go off and replicate this fabulosity, which I myself have inherited from those who have mentored me throughout my life. What are the timings? When do you know when to do what and how?
I guess, Tammy, the first thing is, I advise a lot of young people around their careers. And the first thing I say to them is, they come in and sometimes they say, I want to make this change and so on. I said, you cannot make a change until you're accepted by that system. Otherwise the system rejects you, right? And you are not able to make that change. First, your first job is to gain credibility, adapt, okay?
Absolutely.
I didn't say assimilate, adapt,
Yes.
and then be the change agent, right?
Absolutely.
And if we do that, then it's much easier. I make examples of people, right? Even me, when I started working, I was told, Yolanda, you will wear gray suit, black suit, navy suit, right? I didn't wear color. I didn't wear color. If you go back to a lot of my stuff in 2002, 2003, and so on, you'll see that I'm wearing all these dark colors. I'm wearing pinstripe suits because until I had my own voice where I was accepted, then I only then could make the points that I needed to make. So be clear first where you stand, right? And then once you are clear, once you've filled your cup, and I'm saying this deliberately also because I know I'm talking to women, fill your cup first. Once your cup is filled, that's the right time to start. That's the right time to start. I do not want depleted women trying to actually take out sweat and blood out of themselves, right? And giving it to others. That's not the time. This is not the time for that. It is when you are complete that you can give of yourself. The reason that I'm able to start the Mentorship Boardroom is because I know what I've achieved. I know where I stand. The reason Nompendulo can do what she's doing, the reason Mamkheti can do what she's doing, right, is sharing of herself, is because she knows that she has done the part first on herself. Once we've done that, then we start to share. I started early. As soon as I became deputy CEO back in 2003, that's when I started mentorship, right? That's when I started supporting children with bursaries. My foundation, I think, started in 2005 or 2006, right? I've been supporting bursaries since then. I was young. I was really, really young, right? But I felt that at that stage, I was ready to impart my knowledge, what I had, with others. People actually do this in different stages. People shouldn't say, Mam Kheti started early. As soon as she started her job, she started giving back. She started doing her Sunday sessions for anyone who wanted to be a PhD student, right? And she's basically working at how to make education sexy. That's how I describe it. I was like, she's working to make education sexy, right? And for me, you can only do that once you've actually gained the ground that you stand on. And then if we move forward from there and say, okay, then what are we then trying to do? Every day when I wake up, I think about MTN, right? My job. And I think about how am I going to make a change? And then I sit and say, and then as Yolanda, right? Around this thing around purpose, aligning purpose and what you do, right? I say, as Yolanda, what is my purpose here, right? And how then do I align these two? And every day when I go to work, I think about what does Yolanda want to achieve? Yolanda wants to achieve engagement, right? Firstly, I start by saying I want to inspire people to be better leaders, to be better at whatever they're doing. And then I go into engage, right? And engage is an active step that you take in actually making sure that you draw on other people. You are actually having dialogues with other people, and hence the kind of platforms that we've created around the mentorship, right? And then the next one is around empower. How do we empower? Why do we set up sessions like this? So that we can empower people with knowledge, with best practice. How do we get, through the Mentorship Boardroom, mentors, right, that are industry leaders, captains of industries, trailblazers, people who've done it before, coming in to take time to engage with people that actually are less experienced or who might need some type of advice or guidance, or just simply to say you are in the right direction, confirmation of the direction that you're going on. And lastly, I believe that through these engagements, once we start expecting more from people and giving them the tools and then actually helping them get the opportunities, then we will see excellence. And that's where I'm trying to get to in terms of all the platforms that I'm putting together, is to say, how do we better the leaders that we have as Africa? And this is an African mission for me. It is not a South African mission. It is really a long-term mission to say, how do we create better leaders, inspiring leaders, leaders that can take our societies, our economies forward so that we can compete with our peers across the world. We don't go to London or to New York or wherever we go just for holidays, but we go there because we own a property or we own a business there or we own this or whatever. So where are these inspired leaders? Those inspired leaders are going to come because, as Fred Swaneka actually said in one of his videos, he said, we have to do the hard things, because what we're trying to do is do the hard things. The hard things means investing in people, taking your time. There is nothing that that is more precious than getting someone's time, right? And for me, that's important, is that what we're trying to do at the Mentorship Boardroom right now is actually take people's time, people that are more experienced and so on, but also disrupt the system by saying it is not the mentors that now are choosing which mentees to have. We're actually saying the mentees are the ones that can choose the mentors that they like, because they know themselves best. I know myself best, and I know when I look at the story, which one resonates with me, and therefore that's the kind of person that I want to talk to. So this is a revolution on leadership that we are on, and that revolution of leadership starts with each and every one of us and lifting others as we go. But as I'm saying, first, fill your cup. Kindness to yourself is first, and then you are able to impart once you are able to do that.
You know, Yolanda, you cannot emphasize that enough. You cannot emphasize that enough. And it brings me to you, Osman Mokheti, watching you live your life. Actually, I was going through the comments, and one of the comments there, I'm not at it right now, but one of the people there was saying, oh yes, we know her from social media. If you follow her, you know that she's dynamic. And whatever you said, Tammy, you're not underplaying it. Yes, she actually is the woman that she thinks she is. So drop mic to you, Osman Mokheti. You are the woman that you think you are. And talking about being the woman that you think you are a disruptor. You haven't necessarily gone with the grain. There are times when you have been very resolute about being who you are, the way that you are, and not allow yourself to be put into boxes because of stereotypes. Oh, I'm an academics at Kolaganje. Oh, women in your position must look like this. You were like, no. Actually, this is me. I'm comfortable with me, and I will come as I am. There was some backlash regarding that, in the sense that you had to state your claim and own your territory and own your identity. And earlier on, Mam Sophie spoke about the challenges of this time, including social media, including the fact that everybody has a say over your life and a comment about who they think you should be. And you find all choices sorted with social media. So how did you gain your inner strength and your resolution to insist on being who you are, irrespective of what the gallery might be saying?
Thanks, Tammy. I think Yolanda has said a lot. I mean, about filling your cup, but also what I was hearing from what Yolanda is saying, that's how I did it, is to first, you've got to gain credibility. So I have to say, people talk about me in terms of being colorful, being whatever, but the burden of being a Black woman is that nobody tells you that I got my first rating as a scientist 3 years after my PhD, and it's a C1 rating. It's unthinkable that people who grew up in privilege die, some of them, retire with only a C1 rating, and I got it 3 years after my PhD, right? But that's the cooking of the story of a Black woman. Now, I had to accept, and I want every woman out there to accept that in many spaces, you'll be a disruptive presence. You don't have to do anything. So I realized, I came to a point where I actually accepted, you know what? I'm a disruptive presence. That's the title of my next book, guys. Note this, pin it. A disruptive presence. That's what I am, right? I made peace with it, that I'm a disruptive presence. I don't have, even when I don't say anything, people talk. I look good, they talk. I look shabby, they talk. I play, they talk. I work, they talk. So actually, I don't have to do anything.
Just be.
I was born this way.
Come on.
Please. So I cannot beat myself up simply because I was born this way, right? Now, there are things, of course, that you can do. You can't be there in a university, in the top university in the continent, okay, the one that is in Johannesburg, and think that all you sell is your colorful earrings. Excuse me, that doesn't sell. It doesn't sell, I'm sorry. Now, here's the thing. You when I talk about ticking the boxes, you got to walk the journey. Don't sit there and say, I'm a Black woman and you want to be parachuted into a position. Walk the journey and do the work. You get given the position, you bloody do the work. You don't sell the fact that when you are Black, you were on this picket line, then you were on this desk, then you're whatever. Now, that's, for me, that's what I was hearing Yolanda saying, you earn your credibility. All right, you've got to, nobody's going to listen to you if you don't know the work and you haven't delivered on their work. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important. But remember, because you're a disruptive presence, even after doing that, you will attract excruciating scrutiny. And that's what was happening with me, right? So, but here's the, nobody tells you, nobody sits and says, how many vice chancellors do we have? Who are rated scientists? What are the ratings? When did they get it? Nobody, it's irrelevant. Why? Because some Black woman is in the mix, right? Okay, now, what I'm saying is that you should always, unfortunately, we don't have very good journalism in this country, unfortunately. And journalism is going down because social media is also making it difficult for journalists to do a good job because people churn out things so quickly. So people don't have time. It's quite a hectic time. But actually we could do a good job of checking, you know, that women tick the boxes, and it doesn't mean when you tick the boxes, you will not get the negativity. Mm-hmm. You know, you will still attract that excruciating scrutiny. And so the question is, what do? You stop and say, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm throwing a tantrum. I'm leaving. And I've written in the comment, you stay the course, actually. Mm-hmm. You stay the course and focus on the work. So there comes a time when you say, I don't get into the mud with the pig, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to know who's the pig and who's not. So let the pigs get in that pig, in the mud. I've got work to do. You focus on the work. All right. And when you're done with the work, you check out, you get to the next. We've got to do that because work has to be done. You cannot ride only on the fact that you are a woman. You, of course, you bring value by being a woman. And when I say you are other things, those other things is the expert that you are. Technically, scientifically, in the boardroom, in doing the amazing things that Yolanda and many other people are doing at her age, started doing, right? Those are the things that give you credibility, that we stop, we go, wow, she's changing the game. Mm-hmm.
And also just, you're one of those women who shows that you can actually have it all. You know,
well, you can't have it all. No, that's not true. You can't have it all. I'm sorry, Tammy.
Here's what I mean. First of all, first Black woman to get her PhD in mathematics, right?
Mathematics education.
Yeah. Over 80 research papers. You know, Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Town. You have
after the amazing Mampele. After the amazing Mampele. Amen.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So as far as your credentials are concerned, you've got that. Yeah. Personality, charm, charisma, ability to go in there and to be a change maker, you've got that. And on top of it, you are, you know, beautiful. We were just commenting earlier on, when we had our meeting earlier. You know, she's the one who rocked up looking absolutely fabulous. You know, and there she comes in her essence and in herself. So when I say that you have got it all, I'm saying you are, at least from lapho sinekhona thina, akukho lapho kushoda khona. But the truth is, everybody has a place lapho kushoda khona. Nobody is a perfect work. We are all a work in progress.
But you will also, I want to say, because we are in this line of women who are breaking ground, we are going to get hurt. We are going to be brutalized, okay? Because we are breaking ground. I've accepted that. I'm in the line with women, phenomenal women, some of them ahead of me, Dr. Mampele, and so on, who are breaking, we are still breaking ground. It's not broken. And if we're in that space, we're gonna get hurt. And I'm staying the course because I'm saying, I don't want 20 years from now, my children's children still dealing with the same things. But to be
I'm gonna ask you, just if we can hold it there, just for now. I'm just watching our time and it's depleting really fast. But before we actually even start rounding up, and I see so many comments, I'm gonna try to get through a few of them in just a short moment. But maybe let me ask Mam Sophie de Bruyn, advice for today's women, Mam Sophie de Bruyn, advice for this generation. We ventilated all of the issues, come up with perhaps some solutions, but from you to the women of today, what advice would you give?
Yes, Tami. My advice, Tami, would be for the younger women, or for this generation of women, to stand firm. And I know that a lot of women are brave. There are bravery in them because bravery has been passed on from generation to generation. But also what I think is important is for women to hold hands, to uplift one another, to be caring of one another. And I think most importantly is values. The values that they see from their parents is very important. And I would appeal to young women, married women who are raising their children, or women that are in partnership, that they together with their spouses and their partners show good examples around their children. The way they speak to one another, a respectable way, the way they speak to the neighbors respectfully, the way they treat anybody around them where their children are, so that the children emulate from the parents these values, the values of respect, the values of, excuse me, the good values of how to treat one another, the values of caring and sharing and graciousness and dignity. These are the values or the attributes that parents should always have so that their children emulate from. Because these children grow up and become young people. They grow up and become men. If they are men, they have these values already. They will know how to treat their wives because they have seen their father treating their mother in a very important, valuable surroundings and how he spoke to his mother. So he has picked up these values and he's carrying it forward. He's carrying it forward, and if a lot of young people grow up like that, emulating all these values, then we have a society. We have no problems with the society one day, because that society will be leading the country of integrity. So I appeal to parents, first of all, the importance of showing good examples in the home, building good foundations. But good foundations is not enough. Good examples with that foundation is important. So that is my message to the future generation of young people that are raising their families. It's very simple. I think it's very simple. It starts from the home. And maybe all our problems could be solved.
Thank you so much, Mom Sophie de Bray, just going to the foundations there as the message to all of the women. As we wrap up our time together this evening, I'm going to give each of our panelists just 30 seconds to round up with your message for the women, and also, I guess, for the many men who are with us on this platform as well tonight. But the focus, I guess, it is Women's Month, women. I'll start with you, Mam Phumzile, your message in 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I would like to remind women that those who have privilege don't always understand the privileges they have. So stay in there and fight for the things that you believe in, because they will not be given. Privilege is not obvious to those who have it. Because you don't have it, fight for it. And let's make sure that we show up for other people, because just as much as we need them, they need us too. And I would also ask you to spare a thought for the people, girls and women of Afghanistan. We are losing that country in a shocking way. So I'm running now because I have to go to a meeting about it. But please think of them in solidarity, because the Taliban hates women. That is where it starts. So it's going to be tough for women. Thank you so much to all of you. Thanks, Yolanda, for convening us. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you so much, Mam Phumzile. You've been an absolute gem and an inspiration to us. Thank you for your time. And she's off to do some serious business, global issues, global affairs. I got that, Mam Phumzile. Osma Mokheti, as we wrap up this evening, just your message to the women this Women's Month in 30 seconds.
I want to repeat what I said, and it's be who you are. You be true to who you are. Don't take nonsense and don't engage with it. All right. Don't apologize for being fabulous when you are. Don't. Because that's me. And work damn hard. Right? Work damn hard. That's not negotiable. And then stay the course. No matter how tough it is, stay the course. That's it.
Thank you so much. Some worlds and pearls of wisdom. They're so much appreciated. And we come to you, Nombendulo, with your message for women this Women's Month.
Thank you very much, firstly, Sis Tammy, Sis Yolanda, for giving us an opportunity to engage in this massive platform. My mom and my grandmother were so excited about this. They're like, "Yo, Benu, so thank you so much, Sis Yolanda, for seeing us as young people, as young women. Dr. Pakeng, I'll see you on our oversight, not this coming Tuesday, the next Tuesday. So cool.
You're the masses. You're saying you're doing the people.
But oversight is a good thing. It doesn't mean we're there to see how bad UCT is doing. We're there to see how we collectively can build this country and strengthen our institutions of higher learning. Mam Sophie, it's always really, an honor to be working with you as a young person. And this brings me to my closing message. Sis Yolanda, what you're doing is part and parcel, the mentorship board, these 20,000 women that you're trying to get. The Ahmed Kathrada Foundation and the Sophie and Henry de Bruin Foundation is trying to identify all 20,000 women who are part and parcel of that march. You are trying to identify and create a safe space for 20,000 women across various generations to do the great work, that coordination we saw in 1956. You're trying to coordinate like that today in 2021, and we really want to thank you and say, look, we're going to be as hands-on as possible. But it also speaks to what I really am passionate about at the moment in terms of bridging the generational gap quicker, making it smaller. When we speak about closing the generational gap, you're not closing it between me and Mam Sophie de Bruin. I'm 28 on Friday. Mam Sophie de Bruin is much older. We're talking about these smaller gaps. Next time when we have a conversation like this, we need to have someone much younger than me as well, because I'm already older than somebody else. I've already gone on a journey that another young woman has not gone on yet. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. This is part and parcel of how, the disruption. Even I want to just declare to young people, me saying that we want to work with progressive elderly people does not mean that we don't want to be disruptive in being being at the table, because we don't want to be consulted anymore and then we are not there to implement. We're not there to make the policies. We don't only want to be Onobendulo who are holding the executive and of government to account. We want to be the DGs, we want to be the DDGs, the chief directors, those who have the executive powers to do what we continuously advocate for. But we don't mind working with progressive people as well who are a bit older than us and can give us institutional memory. So, let's be as disruptive as possible as young people. Let's coordinate ourselves across various sectors, across various fields, and let's be intentional about what we are doing. Men know they have privilege, and them knowing doesn't mean that they're going to give up their privilege. So all that we do when we're done talking here, Mam Kheti, your policies at the University of Cape Town need to reflect everything we've said. When I am done here as Nompendulo, with my youthfulness, I need to be deliberate and intentional when I hold the department to account, and I monitor and evaluate whether or not the inclusion and the representation of women and young women and Black women that we want to see in government, its department and its entities is actually taking place. Because you can't say, and we can't say to people, where are the women, when we never told them that the woman must be there in the first place. So there's a lot of work that we need to do, and it needs young, energetic people. And I really urge for young people like Mam Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka said, to organize themselves and be part and parcel of matters bigger than themselves. Thank you so much, Sis Tammy. I'm sorry for bullying you a bit there.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on the fabulous work that you continue to do. We go now to the founder of the Mentorship Boardroom. Yolanda, as you do your message, I'd also like to just rope in this one question, if you can answer it as well as part of your message for today. It comes from Dimakato Nzalong, who says, how will this knowledge be imparted to us who are in the rural areas and cannot access the information, also not educated, but hungry to be a part of other women out there? And here, infrastructure is also a problem in the sense that you need data to even be able to connect to this platform. So there are some barriers to entry for those who do not necessarily have the means to purchase the data and who are in the rural areas. So if you could please incorporate that in your response.
Thanks. Let me respond to that and then close. In responding to that, what we will do as the Mentorship Boardroom, we will, because we want to be accessible, we will find ways to actually increase accessibility. If it means we have to partner with schools, with whatever, in order to actually increase accessibility, partner with telcos, partner with other partners in order to increase accessibility, we will do so. Because mine and our team's drive is to say, how do we disrupt a model that was built 1,000 years ago that is hierarchical in terms of its nature, and whereas today, the information age actually says anyone can be capacitated to make decisions because information is so ubiquitous. So basically, we want everyone to actually have access to the platform. Let them be able to choose mentors. Let them be able to engage in platforms like this. And we'll find creative ways now that someone has actually raised that point specifically. Maybe in my closing remarks are as follows. You know, we talk a lot about the limitations that we have as women. Some of them self-imposed. Some of them are called fear. Some of them are called doubt. And today I want to tell every woman that is listening to this that you are allowed. You are allowed to be bold, as Mokgweetsi actually said. You are allowed to be fabulous. You are allowed to be that loud person in the room that knows the most about the subject and be called a subject matter expert. You are allowed to be a geek. You know, my daughter calls me a beautiful nerd. Mom, you are a beautiful nerd, right? And for a long time, I didn't want to be called a nerd because I always thought nerd was so nerdy, right? It was not the cool thing, right? However, you are allowed to be anything you want. We are giving you the permission. The people, the shoulders of the people we stand on are giving you the permission to say you are allowed to be any version of yourself that you want to show up as. In addition to that, you are a revolution. You being there today, you doing the things that you are doing today, you being able to multitask, being a mom, a sister, a brother, a husband, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever you are, right? You are a revolution in yourself. You being there, wanting the things that you want to become a reality and working for it every day is a revolution in itself. It's okay to be that revolution. Go out there and be that revolution. And lastly, my message to you is that every night, a phoenix, you know, the bird, the phoenix, actually goes to sleep and wakes up in all its wonder and in all its color. So the myth actually says. So every night, there are times when you actually have to sleep with an empty stomach, with tears on the pillow, with your legs and your knees pressed together, because there's a black man or some man behind you that is trying to do things to you, right? Even in those situations, please in the morning, rise like the phoenix and rise and rise and rise. You are a black woman. You are a woman. Being a woman actually gives you the right to be that revolution. It gives you the right to rise. So please rise, South African women.
Oh, thank you so much. What a powerful, powerful way to close off today. And which would be remiss of us not to mention the partners that have come together to make this platform possible for us to be able to gather today. So I really would like to thank all of our partners and all of the supporters of the Mentorship Boardroom, and specifically to the Roundtable Passing on the Baton from 1956. We'd like to thank the Black Management Forum. We'd like to thank the Association of Black Securities and Investment Professionals, the South African Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, Women in Business. A big thank you to you, African Women Chartered Accountants, as well as the African Women in Supply Chain Association. These are all the organizations and companies that have come together to make sure that today happens and that today is a success. Yolanda, thank you for your vision. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your tenacity. May God bless you and may He extend your territory. The seed that you have planted, may it replicate itself so exponentially. She said she wanted 20,000. I'll beg him, it's 20 million. May that be the type of miraculous growth that you experience. You surely are doing a good work. Also want to thank all of our panelists. Today, you have been absolutely amazing and extraordinary. Mam Sophie de Brain, Mam Pumzile Mlambo in her absence, Os Mamokgweetsi Phakeng, an absolute light you are. Nompendulo Mkhatshwa, Sukjongi. Sukjongi. Well, we're watching you because we're very proud of you, and we're proud of your tenacity, and we're proud of your vision and your work. And may you continue doing the work that you do within, Parliament as an activist, and also mentoring young women yourself and mentoring the next generation, even at this young stage. And to all of you who have joined us as well on your various platforms, thank you for taking the time to be with us. And I'm so sorry that we didn't even get through all of these comments. I'm sure we've got over 300 comments, if I'm not mistaken, but all very profound. We are going to take the time, though, to go through them, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of learnings, even for us as the panel and conveners of this. Yes, you may, Yolanda.
Thanks, Tammy. I just wanted to say to everyone on the platform, the Mentorship Boardroom is the platform that allows mentees and mentors to actually come together. And I'm really, really appealing to people as mentors and mentees to sign up on www.thementorshipboardroom.com. We do have an ambitious target to say, if the women of 1956 could galvanize 20,000 women in one place at the same time, can we not actually touch 20,000 women within the month of August? By the way, if we don't, it's okay. You know, I always tell people that it's okay, because even if we touch one life, that plant that that seed that we planted in one is more than enough for me. However, it's really to set the tone to say, actually, let's reach out to as many people as possible. The platform allows you as a mentor to actually state the times that you are available to mentor anyone for an hour or two, whatever times that you have available. It could be 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at night when you are free. And it allows for the mentees to be able to see when you're available and request from you time, the allocated time, to actually have an interaction with you. This is how we're going to build the next generation of leaders, by actually giving our time and our efforts to be able to make sure that we mentor others and bring up others as we go along. And lastly, from my side, is to thank Ntombi Yamutsonga as well. She is phenomenal. If you were here at the beginning, you would have heard her actually give us a rendition of a poem. It would be great to actually exit with her poem as well, if she's able to do that. But thank you so much, everybody, from me. I really appreciate it. Halala bafazi, halala.
Halala.
Allah. Phambili bafazi, phambili.
Phambili. Oh, are we having some connectivity issues there? And Ntombi Yamutsonga, are we still good? It looks like that's where we'll have to leave it. All right, it's not working out. We hit the gold in the beginning, and the gold is what we needed. But we thank you and we bless you, and you are just such an amazing young talent. May God continue to bless you and extend your territory. And to each and every single one of you who's joined us from wherever in the world that you may be, because I did see some comments. Some of you are saying you're in Kenya, in the world. I want to leave you with this quote by Datu Madiba. He said, sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great, and you can be that generation. We don't have to leave it to the next generation. Let's do all we can right now, right here, with the breath of life that has been given to each and every single one of us. May God bless you and keep you, and may you prosper and succeed in absolutely everything that you do. And happy Women's Month to all the women of Mzansi. Thank you once again, Yolanda, and the panelists, and everybody as well behind the scenes who've made this happen so seamlessly. Thank you once again. Thank you. But you know who you are. You've made this happen. So thank you for all the technical support as well. May God bless you and keep you until we meet again, hopefully in the Mentorship Boardroom once again, to grow and expand. You be blessed. Goodbye.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Tammy. Thanks, Yolanda. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. You were absolutely amazing.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, then. Bye-bye.